So, I have a bone to pick with Nasu, which is shocking, I know, but hear me out. The Paladin class has a problem that needs fixing. And, truth be told, I can imagine that this fix could be made somewhere down the line. It's not guaranteed to happen, but it is a possibility. However, rather than wait for that to potentially happen, I'm going to be taking a hammer and doing the fixing myself. This is because the problem is actually just a minor one. Something that isn't a blight on the narrative, but instead is a hindrance to people like myself. People who like to make fan servants. AKA, this is an entirely subjective and self-serving take. Objectively, I don't think there is an actual problem. But if you too want to make your own Paladin fan servant, or just want to hear fun speculation and see my inevitable fan servant at the end of the video, then join me on this silly ride. You will be rewarded immediately because I lied. There is an actual problem that does need fixing. This is because, for some godforsaken reason, Summer 10 didn't give Mosh a new swimsuit for her new class. Absolutely insane. So, with the help of the wonderful artist Lo, we put together what you see on the screen right now for Summer Paladin Mosh. Our collective Kohai only deserves the best, so we must give her the best, which does include a faux hat ornament. And I do believe that that deserves a like on this video, and Lo deserves many followers over on Twitter. Also, you're welcome, Nasu. I'm saving this class twice in one video. But now onto the matter at hand. Based on translations of Mosh's new bio, the Paladin class is the Holy Knight of Chaldea. And this is where I think it can be fixed in the future if Nasu ever decides to expand the class. As it stands, it is extremely restrictive in regards to creating a fan servant, to the exact same level as making a new Moon Cancer servant before they widened that net. So the fix is simply removing that from the qualifications. Though, even after removing that qualification, it then leads to the question of what even would be the qualifications of the Paladin class? And I've said qualifications way too many times now. Anyway, to answer that, I'm going to be doing what I did for the Gatekeeper class, and look to what we know about Mosh in order to flesh out the speculative requirements of her new class, so that they can hopefully be applied to future servants. Still, throughout this thought experiment, we must keep in mind that this class should still be heavily specialized and restrictive overall. We can't go opening it up too much because that would end up undermining Mosh's creation of it. She is God's most special eggplant, and she is going to stay that way. Though I will readily admit that this meant I only struggled more with this task. The initial hurdle was that I was stuck on the Holy Knight definition of Paladin, and it was hell to make this a special distinction from Ruler or any other Knight class. And that was until I fully discarded it and looked at what we actually know about the class based on context, specifically its creation. It was made in defiance. Mosh manifested this class by rejecting Ruler and taking Shielder as her own, no longer relying on Galahad. It is painfully human to be given the option to go left or to go right, and instead carving a path through the mountain that's splitting the road. The conviction to protect that which you hold dear, regardless of whether it is ultimately right or wrong, but because it is your choice, not anyone else's. It was an epiphany. Only an impossible person, an impossible existence, can become this class. Say, for instance, a short-lived girl fused with a heroic spirit who went on a journey through space and time, was saved by a beast of humanity, and later made the aforementioned heroic spirit's powers her own even after he abandoned her and the world. A girl whose life was forever changed by a single act of kindness at the end of it all. whose tomorrow never truly existed until that one person took her hand and led her down a path to discovering what it meant to be human and ultimately what it meant to be Mosh Kierlight. This is a class that is about changing fate. A class for heroic spirits made by someone that is still living. That is what the Paladin class is. And I'm going to need you to strap in and let me cook. Because now that we have established that, this ride is going to be going places. As I introduce you to my Paladin fan servant, President George Washington. You stay with me now, because I promise you I know what I'm doing. First off, the American ideal is certainly an impossibility that doesn't mesh with reality, especially now in the current state of the country in 2025 and how it is being run, but it does exist to a certain extent. Truth, justice, and the American way, protectors of the world, a clean and completely sanitized look at things that has at least a teeny tiny kernel of truth, but completely ignores how drenched in blood it is and has been since the nation's founding. George Washington is a standard for that kind of thinking. The way he has a squeaky clean mythology around him, like many of the other founding fathers, but more than any, he is the example others are expected to follow. And that's not to say that there's nothing good about him, just that there is also a lot of bad. Like the history of this country, dichotomy is integral to human nature. But for all of his positives and negatives, he alone cannot be the sole existence of a paladin. My friend brought up the idea that a paladin must be in some way living, by the very nature of the fact that they are born in defiance of fate. Something that a heroic spirit normally cannot do, a paladin must be alive. So while George Washington does have the spirit in the mythology and some of his historical deeds, he is very much dead. So while we are still going to be using him, he's just more of a template for the actual nature of the servant. Something that could be considered alive in a certain conceptual sense, but may not have its own true form. A manifestation of the American ideal. The best of what America should be rather than what it actually is. And I can think of no better symbol for that, especially in these times, than Lady Liberty. The standing, living monument of freedom, a symbol of hope and the very promise of changing your fate. The American dream herself, even though it is fleeting, is worth fighting for. Now more than ever, when it seems to be the most dead under the thumb of some of the worst people imaginable. I do not like to get overtly political on this channel, but I chose this character, and it would just not be right for me to not make it clear where I stand in all of this, since I am talking about America. I believe in the good America can be, but holy shit is there so much wrong with it. Right now, namely the people running it in the year of our Lord 2025. Now, sidestepping that, with all the aforementioned elements in mind, here is my paladin servant, Lady Liberty Washington, with art by the amazing Glitter Djenna. Give her your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, because that is what she believes in. That is what America is for, even if it only, half started out that way. Even if that, and even though it has never truly fully reached that point and is only regressing further now, we must fight and strive to believe that it can be that completely one day. She, of course, recognizes the atrocities of America, and thus her existence is one of atonement as well as hope. And despite those evils, she believes that the country can rise above them and change for the better. Even the actual George Washington, who is reported to have been quite the especially horrific slave owner, would change in his later life and would free all of his slaves in his will. It's not much, and it doesn't undo the things he did. It certainly doesn't make him an automatically good person, but it does prove change can happen. America may have never been fated to be everything that it praises itself to be. A land of freedom and opportunity for all. It was never really completely that to begin with. But so long as we live, so long as we are human, we can change fate. And that is the spirit that creates Lady Liberty. The American spirit that still lives and believes that we can be better, that we will be better. Given the chance, she will gladly lead the way to that impossible dream. And with that, those are my ideas for the Paladin class, and my own fan servant for it. Like I said before, I know it's still really restrictive with the qualifications that I speculated on, so it is still tricky to make a fan servant with, but I'm still interested to hear any ideas you may have. Personally, I want to work out a way to make a Paladin Elizabeth so that she could actually change her fate. Regardless, leave a comment down below with your thoughts. I am really interested to find out. Though please, at least try to not make the comment section a political hellscape. Like I said, I just needed to express my point of view purely because of the subject matter. If you disagree with me and think that the current administration is the best thing ever, please just leave, block me, don't interact with me. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to catch you next time in the void. Later.